live streaming, so I'm going to be introducing ourselves just one more time for the viewers, just so that you know what's going on. You don't think like, what are they doing? Is it on? Oh, it's on. Well, good morning. I am Reverend Ed Jansen, one of the senior ministers here at Centers for Spiritual Living Greater Boston, along with Reverend George Stewart, otherwise known as Rev G. And I welcome here this morning our congregants in the sanctuary, and I also welcome our live stream viewers to our Sunday morning talk, coming to you from beautiful Cambridge, Massachusetts. Your continued support of this live stream ministry is greatly appreciated, and you can donate by going to our website, cslboston.org, and clicking on the donate button, which is on the left bottom side of the screen. So, I have my sacred clicker, and we'll begin our talk. So, the theme, the year 2017 theme for Centers for Spiritual Living is values-based living. And May's theme is spiritual living through creativity. And our talk this morning is creative confidence. Creative confidence. So, when I myself think of the word creative, here's what comes to mind for me. I think of creative people. The poet who writes a beautiful poem, that person is creative. The artist who paints that most beautiful picture on canvas is creative. The singer who can sing and create a beautiful song, like myself, is creative. Only joking. Okay. The sculptor who creates that beautiful form is creative. So is it the choreographer who comes up with these beautiful dance routines we see, and the beautician who makes these beautiful hairdos. All of these people are creative. All of them. Now follow me a little longer here. I don't write poetry. So therefore, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. I don't paint on canvas. I'm not a singer, and my congregation knows that. I'm not creative. I don't sculpt. I don't, create beautiful dance routines, and I surely do not do hairdos. I am not creative. I am not. So all of these people here who produce something, all that I've mentioned, they are creative because of what they produce. All right? Now, does anyone agree with this belief? That being creative has something to do with having the fanciest ideas or having the most artistic flair or the ability to do something? Do you think so?
The ability to do something.
You think it's creative? Well, okay, let me tell you this. Before Science of Mind, I believed that. And guess what? It is not so. It is not so. Because being creative has nothing to do with having the fanciest ideas. Being creative has nothing to do with that most artistic, beautiful flair that you might have. And being creative doesn't have anything even to do with the ability to speak a prayer in a poetic fashion. So if it's not creative, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? Producing that painting, producing that song, producing that piece of sculpture, producing that hairdo, dance routine, and poems, it's not creativity. It's talent. It is talent. It is a talent that one possesses. Many of you are looking at me very strangely. Just bear along with me, okay? But where do these talents come from? God, the higher power, the divine. So being creative is not about being talented. Here it is. Being creative is what we are. Being creative is our nature. So as the nature of the divine, each of us are living individualizations of God, aren't we? Yes, no, yes?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
And we are imbued with the creative possibilities of the divine itself. Our creative power is that of the infinite. So our nature is of being creative. That's who we are. Thus, everything we do, everything is creative. We're always co-creating with the divine because everything that is one of the one mind. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's another little switch. Creating a personal practice of compassion and kindness and creating a space where love is welcome is as simple as knowing that truth and then acting like it's absolutely so. That it's absolutely so. And coming from this truth and consciousness, I really believe with that consciousness that no one will longer find themselves saying, I can't. But instead, they would be coming from a place of saying, how can I do this? And with this, what we do, and whatever we set our minds to do, guess what? We'll do it. You've got that power. And here's the great thing. Each and every one of you will do it in your own unique, creative way. In your own way. Because that is who and what each one of us are. So remember, all of the universe works for everyone's highest and best good and success. And it helps when we set forth a very clear and convicted desire to create. Here's a quote that I found that I thought you might enjoy. The thought is a mold. Conviction is the molten substance poured into this mold. One is not complete without the other. And many people make the mistake of using only one of these essential states of consciousness. Okay? So here's what I get from that quote. It speaks this way to me. The thoughts that we focus on and the thoughts that we pour our conviction into are the thoughts that manifest in our reality. We have so many thoughts in the day. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. Right? In your little mind here, not big mind, there's so many thoughts that go through it. And not all of those thoughts, thank goodness, manifest in life. Let's be real. But the ones that we put our energy into, the ones that we pour our conviction into, those are the ones that manifest. Those are the ones that create our life. Those are the ones that happen because of what we impress upon the law, the thought. So it's the feelings and emotions, when we're thinking of our conviction, it's the feelings and emotions that actually create the depth of our conviction. And it is the impress of that that allows the law to do its thing, thus creating the manifestation. Does that make sense? Okay, now I'm going to tell you a story, my story. All right, when I was younger, let's say in high school, I worked in a jewelry shop. There were many jewelry shops in Rhode Island, because I believe, wasn't Rhode Island known as the jewelry industry, right, Nancy? Of the world. So there were jewelry shops all over the place. So one of the many jobs I had was I was a mold caster, I believe they called it. I even forget the title that I had. And what this was, and this quote reminded me so much of what I did, but not knowing. And I compare it to the thought and the conviction. you had two sets of two parts of the mold, the bottom part and the top part. You put them together, put a clamp, put it on a round spinning disc, and then I would pour hot metal, liquid hot metal into it, and it would spin. And as it would spin, it would form whatever it had to form within the mold, and then it would cool. Then you would open it up, and there's your pieces of raw jewelry. So I looked at that as, wow, I was doing that with jewelry, not even knowing it had to do with my thoughts. The thoughts were all the molds that I did, that I worked with, and my conviction was that liquid metal that I was pouring in. Now, one would not work without the other. If I just had the mold, there'd be no pieces of jewelry at the end of the process. Or if I just had melted metal and poured it, it would just take the shape of whatever, but it wouldn't be jewelry because it wasn't in that mold. So think of that as your thoughts, and think of that as, you know, the whole process of your thoughts, the conviction, and then the manifestation. So that was a job I had. I did that for quite a while. It was very long because you were inside the small room and the heat, and you know, I sweat anyway, and it was just like I was pouring sweat, but I was creating jewelry, or I was making jewelry, okay? So in conclusion, for my part of the talk, being creative is not about being talented, because being creative is what each and every one of us are, because it is as much as our nature as it is the nature of the divine. This is the foundation that supports everything we do, being creative. Remember, if we don't think highly of our creative ability and our creative skills, then we're going to go through life in the same old way, feeling the same. It's just like, you know, I'm not feeling good enough. If I have that thought and put my attention to it, well, guess what? I'm not going to feel good enough. But however, if we choose a life, if we choose to live a life coming from that knowing that we have the potential to create something great, because we all do, then we will find new ways for the possibilities that are ours every day to uniquely express the greatness that there is. So it is living from this creative confidence, I feel, that will bring continued freedom and the magnificence that we see in our daily lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Rev Ed. Appreciate it. Thank you for getting rid of that slide. Thank you. So, I liked this idea of creative confidence. And with me, I love to go back to basics. I love to go back to basics. And I remember sitting in a center in Hollywood, Florida, which our friend who is now a minister, Rick McCullum, is what was the practitioner there. And she had all of the 7 ideas or the qualities of God that Ernest Holmes created. So I like to go back to those basics because I think it's always good to look at these. So Ernest Holmes said that the qualities of God are love, right? We agree with that one, right? Joy, peace, wisdom, beauty, life, and power. So these are the original 7 qualities of God that Ernest Holmes spoke of. And I think that these are really awesome. And for those of you who are, wanting to take these down, they'll probably be on Facebook later, next week, because I always like to put these out there for you. So if we look at these qualities, I think it's very easy for us to have confidence in our creative ability as co-creators with the divine. Because everything that God is that not true of us? We are love, joy, peace, wisdom, beauty, life, and power. Each and every one of us has all that. We have it to different degrees and we express it in different degrees, but it's all there. It's all available to us. And so that's where we get into this power of co-creating. And that's the important thing to recognize. Now, for years, science of mind was considered the best kept secret. And I know this must have been a fact, because when I lived in LA, where there was tons of science of mind communities, I never found it. When I was young and I was looking, and yet I never found it. Why didn't I find it? Because it was a best kept secret. It was like this quiet little cloister of people, and people stayed hidden and closed in their communities. And they didn't come out into the world. They didn't share it with the world. And I think that that's what was going on. Well, I think it's time that we change that. Because we need to shift this consciousness. Our world right now is in a place of extreme need of this teaching, of this realization of the fact that we are all of those things that I just mentioned. And so is everyone else. And when I can remember that, I can move into the world and I can see that in others, even when they can't see it for themselves. Because that's what it's all about, is holding that consciousness. So it's time that the secret is out. And it did come out, didn't it? The Secret, the movie, right? So the secret's out. And I think that it's time for us to come out of our spiritual closets. Are you willing to join me in that? Come out of our spiritual closets. Came out of the closet a year ago. But we need to come out of our spiritual closet. Because I believe that these principles that we talk about can allow us to become brave and bold. When we realize that these principles are saying that we are one with all that the divine is, not separate from, but one with all of that, it's easy to step out into the world and be brave and bold. And if you're brave and bold, you're able to hold your confidence even in the times when sometimes in life, when those things come at us that are not so lovely, we have the ability to stand in our truth. And that's what this is about. Standing in our truth. And living our truth in our day-to-day life. How many of us come and listen to all these great messages and then say, oh, well, that's a great idea and I feel good for the first couple of days, and then life hits you. Anybody do that? So what do you do at that point? You go back to the principles. You go back to what you heard. You go to Facebook and you listen to the talk again. Or whatever it takes. Read your spiritual good stuff. The books, there are so many awesome books out there by Ernest Holmes and by so many New Thought teachers that are out there that lift us and take us to a different place. So that's what we use when we feel that we need that boost. Because life does come out. It does appear to be coming at us, but it's not. It's only if we choose to let that be the feeling. And I love that your reading involved that idea of choice, because we are always at choice. We are always at choice. And so I am choosing for all of us to step out into the world and be in that place of recognizing who we are, our truth, and claiming that truth every day. Claiming that truth of our perfection, our wholeness, our completeness, our God qualities. All of those things that we spoke about. So, as I think about this idea of this, once we get ourselves into alignment with these principles, and I just want to go back to that slide, because once we get ourselves back into alignment with these 7 truths, and there are more, there are many more, but these are the basic ones that Ernest Holmes came through. To me, it's like as we look at this, it gives us that opportunity to recognize that this is what truth is. Truth is love, joy, peace, wisdom, beauty, life, and power. And all of these build up to each other. They all build on each other. They all empower each other. So this is our truth. This is who we are. This is what we are meant to be. So from here, I can move to realize that my imagination is my greatest divine gift or curse. to share that with you because it can be a gift, but it can also be a curse. So if I was to say to you today, if I was to say, can you imagine your perfect life right now? Just take a quick moment. Can you imagine your perfect life right now? Some of you might say, yeah, I can imagine my perfect life. But some of you may say, I just can't imagine that. And we've been there, right? Each one of us has been there at some point where somebody said, imagine what your most perfect life would be, and you just sit there and you go, I just can't even imagine what that would be. So we get that impression that we can't imagine ourselves into a really great place. We get that idea. But if you can't pay the rent, watch how quickly your imagination works. See yourself thrown into the streets, homeless, whatever that is, all of these things. Isn't it amazing how when those things can happen in our life that it's like all of a sudden our imagination is very powerful. It's very awake, it's very aware, right? And here's the crazy part. Your rent's probably not due for another 30 days. But you get into that place of believing, I don't see that I have the money to pay the rent. And we can do that with so many things in our life. We so often take those ideas and run with them, but we run with the ideas we don't want. So let's make a pact to choose the good, to choose the perfection, to choose the wholeness, to choose to be the highest and best that we can be. Because as we show up that way, we open the opportunity around us for everyone else to experience that, to step into their truth of who they are. And by doing this, we then have the power of the imagination to use it to create loving, joyful, peaceful, wise, and powerful lives. Because that's what it's about. Being the highest and the best that each of us can be. That's what Ernest brought us. Ernest gave us that gift. Now, Ernest said, we cannot escape from the creative power of our thought. And there is no use in trying to do so. All we need to do is to use the law from the right motive. Then we shall be made free. From the right motive. That's a powerful realization. Because what I talked about before, when we get into that place, oh my God, I can't pay the rent. I'm in the streets. Where will I do with my things? That imagination doesn't work in our favor. But the imagination of, I have all that I need. My rent is already taken care of. I can go to that place. Yes, you too. Yes, Paul, you too. We love you, Paul. So when we realize this is the opportunity. So will you join with me in using the law from the right motive?
Yes.
Will you? Good. Good. I'm glad to hear this. So this is the celebration of all that we are as spiritual beings on a human journey. And when we can embrace that we are spiritual beings on a human journey, we realize that all of the human stuff that shows up is an opportunity for us to grow. So let's grow. Let's become all that we can be. And let's show the world that in our lives so that others will be attracted to want to change their lives. Because that's what this whole thing is about. It's about attractive energy. And we are that attractive energy. So please join me in the affirmation. I am the presence of love in the world. New creative ways to express this love come through me as I recognize my oneness with divine mind. How does that feel?
Great.
Awesome. Namaste.
Namaste.
So if you'll join me in the spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer. And just relax back into your chair. Let your chair support you. And allowing all of the busyness of the mind to just melt away. Relaxing into this moment. Joining together in one deep breath. And exhaling with sound. Allowing the breath to fall into a natural harmony. Recognizing and realizing and knowing that there is only one infinite universal perfection, wholeness, completeness, light, love, and joy that is in all things, as all things and through all things. This universal creative substance. This is the Mother, Father, God, Goddess presence. And I recognize and I realize that this is the power and the source and the substance behind all things. It is all love and joy and peace and perfection and beauty. And so many more things. For it is the all-giving source of all of life. And it is expressing itself through this life and as this life. And as I recognize that it is expressing itself through life, I know that my life is an expression of the divine. That it is indeed all that God is. And as I know that for myself, I know that for all throughout the cosmos and each one in this room, knowing that there is a divine miracle that is absolutely taking place every day, every moment, right here and right now. I claim it, I declare it, I know it is so. And from this place of oneness, from this place of knowing that I am made of all that the divine is, I call forth this truth for each one today. I call forth the creative confidence to step into life full and complete and whole and know that each one is healed in this moment, because a healing is simply a revealing. And so I reveal that truth of the perfection, the wholeness, the abundance, the clarity, the guidance, all of the things that could be desired in this moment. And I bless each one's journey knowing that it is already done. In gratitude and profound and deep thanksgiving, I accept and I claim all of these gifts, knowing it is always the Mother, Father, God's good pleasure to give the kingdom right here and right now. So knowing it is done, I simply release and surrender and let go, knowing that there is an infinite intelligence, that there is a creative law that is absolutely activating these words into form right here and right now. Molding the lives of each one into the beauty and the perfection and the wholeness and the abundance and the joy and the peace and the creativity that each one is as a co-creator with the divine. And so allowing this law to do its wonderful alchemy, to bring forth this truth. I bless this word, I release this word, I surrender this word. I say, blessed be, Amen, Ashe. And please join with me in saying, and so it is.